I guess what I'll leave you with is virtualization changes everything. And what I think the best thing that you can, whether you agree or disagree on when the end is and how the end comes, is not so much the point as it will change and we will continue to move down a capabilities path and it will force us to do things differently. And one of my favorite things, because I have ADD, about the whole virtualization thing is it broke everything. It broke everything, every fundamental process that we had. Things like backup, which we've been doing badly for 1,000,000 years. It made us do differently. And when we are forced as humans to do something differently, we get a chance to pick up our head and look around and say, is there a better way? And industry loves that. Startups love that, right? New value is created in our organizations, outside our organizations, if we can do things a better way. Is there a different way? Just to think about it. And that's, if nothing else, I'd just like to kind of walk through a few of these and talk about that. I give some examples. These are clearly not all the examples. But you don't see, when I talk about backup, I don't talk about Symantec, right, who owns the backup market. I don't talk about net backup or any of these other kind of 1975 companies into that, because they're, now don't get me wrong, they still own all the market share. So I'm a realist. But having said that, there's better ways. I think in this particular case, I view things as, I'm a simple guy. There's production data, and everything else is a copy of production data. It runs our business in 72 other ways, but they're all copies of production data at one point in time. Otherwise, whether it's test and dev, whether it's data warehouse, doesn't matter. They're copies of production data. Why do we treat, this is interesting to me. Production data is run on the most expensive stuff, controlled by the most talented, expensive people. Right? We put our biggest assets, our biggest budget, everything on the production system. Transactional systems. Runs the big iron. Awesome stuff. Then we take copies of that and we go, we got a data warehouse. The data warehouse is not a transaction system, but we buy all the exact ridiculous stuff that cost $1 trillion, and we just sit it over there till some marketing buffoon goes, I think I'm going to ask it a question, right? And then we do that like 6 times because we go, well, customer service needs that. Sales needs it. Clearly marketing needs it. We're replicating 6 times the most expensive stuff that we have over here that we don't use anything like the same way. And we go, and who wins? Larry Ellison wins, right? And Larry's going, right? Why is that in a relational database? Why is that stuff in a relational database? Are you kidding? Oh, tough. It's the greatest sales thing in the world. It's like every sales guy's dream. You have to give me money or I'll kill you. Sales by terror. All right, I'm jealous, so Oracle's cool. All right, so the network, Chris asked me to talk a little bit about this. You guys probably saw it. VMware paid $1.3 billion for a company doing $5 million in weak at best revenue, right? Nicira, why? And now don't get me wrong, I have no idea if it was the right thing for them to do or not, but conceptually, I understand it. And why is because VMware wants to control the entire world. I don't blame them for that. They want to be the next one. VMware wants to be Microsoft and Oracle, et cetera. And I don't blame them for that. Right? This is a wonderful country we live in. You can do terrible things for stockholders. Anyway, Nicira meant for VMware to be successful, it has to control and puppet master and orchestrate all the things in that data center, not just those little pieces, the VMDK. It's got to own the file system. It's got to control the storage layer. It's got to control the network. And these are the types of things. So if you think about networks have been by and large monolithic as well. There's a whole new wave of really smart networking stuff, of which Nicira hopes to be, that can tear up and tear down and build up and rip down virtual connections ad hoc at will. And when you think about what I had talked about previously, how do you take a collection of resources and apply whatever that app needs for that point in time? You have to be able to do that in the network. And so that's kind of their bet there. Will it ever pan out to be worth that much? I don't know. That makes me worth 300 million billion. I don't know. I talked a little bit about the consolidation play. You know, a lot of what we end up doing, here's how our whole industry works. When we have a problem that manifests itself, and I don't care if it's data domain or who, you know, pick your inflection point in time, what happens is if you're an incumbent vendor, a little startup comes out and says, I built this to solve this problem. And that's what these kind of guys do. Or data domain did, or someone like NetApp 25 years ago did, or EMC 35 years ago did. They say, we purpose-built this to solve this problem. What do the incumbent vendors do? The incumbent vendors don't want you to give the money to anybody else, so they go, first thing they say is, oh yeah, we got that. That's coming. That's in the next rev. It's easy. We totally have that. So they'll try and freeze you. Well, first thing they do is they go, that's ridiculous. That's the crappiest startup ever. They're totally going to go out of business. We're going to crush them. So why would you ever spend your money there? Then, once you start spending your money there, they go, yeah, but it's in the next release. It's in the notes. You can see it. There's a PowerPoint, right? We're going to have it. And then they come out with it. They bolt on the solution to their existing legacy product, which already sucks by now, right? And they plug that in and they go, yeah, we're going to solve it with this bolt-on, and it's terrible. And then they buy them. And the big vendor buys the little vendor, and you go from there. So the purpose-built guys, you'll start to see more of this. These guys build stuff for a virtual, to create sort of pods within that virtual data center, not just old stuff bolted together. Not just 1985 servers bolted to 1992 storage, and we call it whatever we do. So probably the single most important thing, and the best news for you guys, is that skills are way lacking in any of this stuff. This is complicated, difficult stuff. And across the board, right, you want to get a pay raise, you want to get your next job, you're in a good spot. But you got to get smarter about where and when, what to invest in yourselves. Because the stuff is going to become more complicated before it gets any easier. And no one's going to throw you out the door and automate things and just say, yeah. Your competition, by the way, is not each other. Right? Your competition is Amazon. And whoever else in that cloud can convince the business that it's just way easier to swipe a credit card and go, I don't want to hear you anymore. My printer doesn't work. I hate you. You know what I mean? It's just easier for the business to try and come. Virtual printing. It's just going to go, yeah, it's going to send you an email right away and go, yep, job's done. Printed great. Looks awesome. You want glossy paper? You charge a nickel. Everyone's going to go to the cloud. If you're already at the cloud, my entire contention in all of this is we need to be able to provide on-demand cloud-like services and stop talking about it to our own constituents less. We ultimately will marginalize ourselves, and I don't want that to happen because, God, it would be bad if I had to get a real job. VMware, there you go. They want to control everything. Non-altruistic group of folk love money. Good for them. It's not a bad thing, but understand, right? They will try and, so no company in the IT space in the history of IT outside, and this was just because it seemed like they could do it, of IBM, really can control everything. Nobody does everything perfectly, as you know. And so as long as you're going to take best of breed, at least in certain cases, best of breed technology, VMware is not going to be the panacea. It just is, history has proven time and time again they cannot control everything. Nor is it healthy that one person controls everything. It is unhealthy, because that's when they become Oracle, and you get a lot of that. That's bad. So get smarter, stop fighting, right? Accept some of this stuff as inevitable. You don't have to ride a horse. Don't ride a horse. Ride a horse at home, not to work. It's a pain in the ass on $4.95. All right, I'm done. Anybody have any other questions? I'm sorry if I kept you over, but there was no clock, and sometimes I just talk. Questions, comments, anything at all? All right, well, enjoy the rest of the show. I'll be up here if anybody wants to talk about anything.